Let's make a super easy, super tasty, plant-based sour cream.
Now this recipe is actually rather flexible. We've played with some of the ingredients, but as long as you get the proportions right, you should be A-okay.
Yeah, the liquid content is the important bit. I've made this with morinu tofu. I've made this with cashews. Today we're going to use both because I think they both add something nice to it. The morinu tofu does give the creaminess that you want and the lightness, because sour cream isn't super, super heavy, whereas the cashews add a little heaviness and more creaminess to it. So I think the combination of the two is perfect. So let's get the morinu open and got a sheath on there. There we go. Okay.
The reason why we opt sometimes to go full morinu rather than full cashew is based on our daily fat allowance.
Yep.
Okay. We've been playing with our fat ratios. That's a completely different topic.
Oh yeah.
So if you want a lower fat version of sour cream, then you're going to want to stick with the morinu. If you're not really concerned about the fat, you can go full on cashew. You're just going to need to add more water.
Yep. Now, something about the morinu. Somebody recently said that they tried making one of the things that we do, I think it was hot dogs, and they couldn't understand why it tasted beany, and figured it out. It's because they actually used just a regular extra firm tofu, not even a silken tofu.
All tofu is not the same.
Yeah, I've tried using like public silken tofu to make stuff, and even that doesn't work like the morinu tofu. This stuff is the most neutral tasting silken tofu ever.
Yeah.
By the way, you probably saw what I just did. I cut the tabs off the top, cut across, and I cut one of the tabs out of the bottom. That way, when I do this,
it prevents suction.
It just comes right out.
Ta-da!
Terica's dad came up with that idea. I'd love to take credit for it, but it wasn't really my idea.
And to that, we're going to be adding cashews. Now, because we're trying to go for a half and half ratio of morinu to cashews, we're going to do a full cup of cashews.
Right, and these are unsalted, unroasted. They're not raw because you can't actually get raw cashews, but they are unroasted. So they are treated somehow. I don't know. I just know they consider them raw.
Now, one thing that I want to point out now, notice we didn't soak these cashews. These are straight from the bag, and that's because we're using our high-powered Vitamix blender. If you do not have a high-powered blender, that's okay. You're just probably going to want to soak your cashews in water overnight.
Or boil them in water for about 10 minutes. I love cashew. Okay, now we got the creaminess and the body. Time to add some flavor.
So to that, we're going to add some lemon juice. Now, I have on my notes here that I keep looking down at that we added a tablespoon of lemon juice, but that was for basically half the recipe. So we might want to bump it up.
I'm going to go with a tablespoon and a half of lemon juice.
Okay.
If you want to make a note of that, so that when you write the recipe down for others, they have it.
I will do that in a moment.
When you get a pen?
Yeah.
Here's your pen.
Now, this pen has a flag on it. That's because this is Brian's pen. And that's why I had to ask nicely for the pen.
Because she steals it, and I never get it back. Okay, what else did we need?
For apple cider vinegar. I have a teaspoon on my list for that. So do you want to do 2 teaspoons?
I'm going to do 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Now, I like to use lemon juice and apple cider vinegar because they both bring slightly different things to the party. Obviously, the lemon juice brings acid, but it also brings kind of a brightness of flavor. Apple cider vinegar, it's hard to describe. It adds to like a back note of sourness that you really want in a sour cream. It actually works really, really well when you use those two in combination like that. Okay, what's next?
Next is mustard. Normally we use Gulden's. We went
to Aldi, so we have Berman's, which is the same thing.
Well, this is stone ground.
This is stone ground.
This isn't the spicy.
Does it really matter? No, you can use yellow mustard if you want to.
So I had a half teaspoon before. So do you want to use a full teaspoon? Okay.
Yeah, that's about a teaspoon. Sometimes eyeballing is okay. This is a very forgiving recipe.
Mustard, putting it into the measuring and then trying to get it out, it's kind of annoying.
Pain in the butt.
So just eyeball it. It's okay.
By the way, the mustard is here as an emulsifier, and it does add a little bit more of that like vinegary, sour back note that without it, it's just not quite the same.
Next is salt. You can omit this if you really are against salt. We have a half teaspoon of salt here.
I think it adds a nice, brings the flavors out.
Yeah.
I mean, salt is a flavor enhancer. That's what it's there for.
But even though we doubled our recipe, I think we're going to stick to just that
just a half teaspoon is fine.
Next up is the Wonder Twins, garlic powder and onion powder.
I'm not even going to measure. It's a teaspoon.
A teaspoon of each of these, please.
Now, the reason I put these in is because the Morinu tofu has almost no flavor, and the cashews have kind of a sort of sweet flavor. So if you don't add the garlic powder and onion powder, your sour cream comes out tasting a little funny. So I like to add that just to round those flavors out, make it a more neutral, bringing out the lemon juice, apple cider vinegar flavors a little bit more.
So now we have half a cup of water measured out, but we're not going to add it yet. Brian's going to take this over to our blender and start blending and add very slowly the water in as needed.
And I'll let you know exactly how much I use because it's up to a half cup of water, but you don't have to use the whole thing. All right, so I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I let this blend for about 1.5 minutes. I actually used a 1/4 cup of water. Now, we like it relatively thick. If you like it a little thinner, like if you're gonna pour this over a burrito or something like that, you can use a little bit more water, but let me just show you. That's about the consistency that we really like it at. And I'm just gonna get some on my finger. Oh, that's really good. You can alter the amounts of things if you want to. You can make it more sour, less sour. If you want it more sweet, just leave out some of the garlic powder, onion powder. If you want to make it more garlicky, add more. Very, very versatile product.
And this can be used as a base sauce. So you can add other flavors, other elements to it. If you want it to be more like a crema, you can even add herbs to it, which is fantastic. So many things. But it works great as just a plain old sour cream replicant.
Just a couple other things you can do with this. If you wanted to make like a ranch dressing out of this, really easy. Add a bunch of dill and you basically have a ranch dressing. If you want to make a spicy sauce, add some Frank's Red Hot. Oh my God, it's like
Bry's
the perfect
favorite.
dip for so many things. It's very, very versatile. Now you see this makes about, oh, if I could read the measurements on here, I can't read them.
That's milliliters.
That's milliliters. I don't know that. It looks like it makes about 3 cups of this sauce. Now, in our house, that'll go pretty quick, but you could put this in the fridge and store it. I would say no more than like a week to 2 weeks at most. It will start to dispel some liquid. Just mix that right in. You know, it's totally fine. I wouldn't freeze it. It's probably not going to work well. But as you saw, it takes so little time to actually put this together. Super easy. And you can make double the batch if you wanted to. And as we were talking about earlier, you can make this lower fat by using just Morinu. You can make it higher fat by using more cashews. And they're just different variables. But that's what making plant-based sauces and food is all about.
If there's another sauce or condiment that you're really interested in us creating and making our own take on, please leave us a comment in the comment section below.
And always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on The Bistro.